Welcome and thank you for being here today. I'm really excited for this conversation because I feel like it's one of the most important conversations we can have in early childhood right now. Before we get started, I want to briefly introduce myself and explain why this topic is so important to me personally. I'm actually here today as past president of the Florida Association for the Education of Young Children. My name is Angela Tufts, and I entered this field several years ago when my son was born. When I wanted to go back to work, I tried to find something that would allow me to have my child with me. And that's what initially led me to early childhood. So I started my career as a toddler teacher. Later, I taught threes and fours, and still later, I became a director and eventually owned my own childcare center for almost 20 years. Today, I work for the Early Learning Coalition of Pinellas County and serve as the provider services manager there. So I tell you all of this to explain how my experiences across the field and the many roles that I played have really shaped the way that I look at advocacy. I've spent a lot of time reflecting over the years on what it actually takes to create meaningful change for our field. And I believe that some of the most powerful advocacy doesn't happen in meetings or campaigns. It actually happens in those experiences that we have with others, the way that people interact with us as we serve as early childhood professionals. So, when we talk about advocacy in early childhood, most people picture activities that happen outside the classroom. Things like legislative visits, campaigns, writing emails, or attending meetings. Those things matter. And they absolutely have a place. But today I want to talk to you about another form of advocacy that I believe is just as important and actually, in many ways, even more powerful. I believe that some of the strongest advocacy happens through the quality of the work itself, the professionalism that we demonstrate, and the experiences that people have with early childhood every day. The bottom line is if people truly do not understand our work, then meaningful change becomes much harder to create. This is the foundation of the entire conversation. So, we want better compensation, we want a stronger workforce, we need greater investment, and we need higher professional recognition. And all those things are very well deserved, but support doesn't happen automatically. And like I said before, people support what they value, and people value what they understand. So, what that means is that quality isn't separate from advocacy. Quality is actually what gives advocacy credibility. High quality experiences help people better understand the value of early childhood education. And that understanding is actually what moves support and change forward. I think sometimes that we underestimate how much public perception is shaped by those everyday interactions. Um, it happens everywhere that people encounter our work. It happens in the conversations that we have with our friends and families about what we do. It happens in the way that we talk about our profession. It happens in the way that we represent ourselves, both in the classroom and publicly. It even happens in those small moments when someone might see us in our work shirt at the grocery store after work or out in the community. People form opinions about early childhood through the experiences that they have with us. And that means that quality and professionalism are not just things that we turn on during work hours. And in many ways, we represent this field everywhere we go. So right now, I don't have to tell you that the early childhood field is facing significant challenges. Many of the conversations that are happening across the field are center around the support and the need to sustain high quality programs. Um, and the way that we need to sustain and support a strong workforce. We want increased investment. And we want to be treated like professionals. We want stronger workforce supports, fewer unnecessary barriers, all of these things that will strengthen and help the work that we do. But there's an important reality that we simply have to acknowledge, and that is, again, people invest only in what they value, and they will not value our profession unless we show them the value. If the public doesn't value the field, if it doesn't value our existing work, it's going to become just that much harder for us to advocate for increased funding or professional recognition. So, what does quality really mean? When people hear the word quality, a lot of times we immediately picture beautiful buildings or expensive materials or Pinterest ready classrooms. And while environments absolutely matter, it's not at the heart of quality. The heart of quality is really in the interactions that we have. Um, it's found in the ways that we interact with children every day, the emotional support that we provide, the intentionality behind our teaching, the consistency, the communication, and the relationships that we build with not only the children and the families that we serve, but also community members and potential stakeholders. Quality lives in these daily experiences. But unfortunately, much of the work is invisible. This is a challenge that we face. Sometimes the expertise that is involved in our work isn't seen by people outside of the field. A family member or a community member might walk into a classroom and just see children playing, or they might view our work as babysitting. But if we want to create meaningful change, we need to let people see and understand what's really happening. We need to show them what we see, that those children who are playing are actually developing language through conversations and play and interactions. They're developing emotional regulation through guidance and co-regulation and relationships. They're developing executive functioning through the routines that we provide, problem solving opportunities to make decisions. Cognitive development is being increased through exploration, inquiry, intentional learning experiences, and relationship building is happening through that trust and responsiveness and the connection that we're having with the children and families we serve. We simply cannot assume that people are automatically going to understand the complexity and the importance of our work. It's up to us to make this visible. And here's where we might have to face an uncomfortable truth. And that is that we want them to recognize quality. We have to consistently demonstrate quality. So, this is the part of the conversation that requires us to have some really honest reflection and take some action. It starts with us. So, if we want the field to be viewed different, we have to think deeply about the role that each of us plays in shaping that perception. We need to ask ourselves, why are we here? Why am I in early childhood? You know, what does quality look like in my daily practice? How do I exude quality, not just when someone's observing, but every single day, every single moment? Am I demonstrating professionalism and quality so consistently that if a parent, a legislator, a licensing specialist, or community member walked into my classroom unannounced, that they would experience it? These can be hard questions sometimes. And um, I'm not talking about perfection. None of us are perfect, right? The field's under a tremendous amount of stress right now. But if we want to elevate the profession, professionalism and quality cannot only be what we do when folks are there. It has become part of our core identity. It has become part of our culture. It has become an ingrained part of the field itself. If we want to elevate the profession, we have to live quality. So when programs consistently demonstrate quality, they build credibility, right? And credibility matters because credibility creates trust, and trust matters because trust builds influence, and influence matters because influence is what strengthens advocacy. And quality is more than compliance. In early childhood, it's easy for conversations about quality to become focused entirely on compliance and accountability. Those matter. Health and safety matters. Accountability matters, but compliance alone isn't the same thing as quality. Quality is really about those experiences that children and families are having every single day. Do they feel safe? Do the children feel emotionally safe? Do the families feel respected and welcomed? Are all of our interactions warm and responsive? Is what we're doing providing positive outcomes for children and families? Those are the experiences that shape trust and perception and support. So, like I said, professionalism shapes perception, right? Perception matters because it influences whether people see early childhood education as simply a service that supervises children, or if they see it as a skilled profession that supports children and families, communities, and the workforce. The way that we communicate, the way that we collaborate, solve problems, the way that we present ourselves both in and out of the classroom helps shape that understanding every single day. And like I said before, when we provide quality, we need to explain the purpose behind activities. We need to document learning. We need to communicate intentionally. And we need to help people better understand the value of what we do. I'm going to tell a very quick personal story. So, my husband is in information security, so technology, right? He's not in early childhood, but I talked to him about my work and I talked to him about my passion. And guess what? He talks to his friends about this. And I've actually witnessed him having conversations, telling these other tech guys how important early childhood is. I've actually heard him give one of his coworkers who was a new dad advice about talking to his baby. Like, we cannot underestimate how we carry ourselves and how our words have a ripple effect on other people and on the industry. And um, if we do that, we form those connections. So if our families trust our program, if they feel supported, if they see growth in their children, then they naturally start to advocate for early childhood education. They talk positively about their experiences. They will defend the importance of quality programs. They begin recognizing the expertise that's involved in our work, and they will actually become some of our strongest advocates for support. That kind of advocacy can be more powerful than any formal advocacy effort there is out there. And quality impacts our communities. So when we talk about quality, we're not just talking about what happens to or for children and families, right? High quality early childhood programs support the community as a whole. Reliable, high quality care reduces workforce disruption because parents are better able to get to work and stay at work. It supports employee reliability because families have greater confidence that their children are safe and cared for and learning. That stability strengthens families and businesses and communities, and at the same time, high quality programs are building long term educational outcomes that benefit the children we serve for years to come. So, when programs provide high quality, reliable care, they're supporting the economy now and in the future. If we want the support, we need to get the word out. We have to shift the narrative. So, moving from this idea that childcare is just babysitting to the understanding that early childhood education is skilled, essential, and foundational is a way to get there. And we can do that. However, nothing changes if nothing changes. We need to live quality and professionalism so consistently that other people can't help but see it. So, in summary, I'm so happy to be here and I'm so happy to talk about this message. Advocacy through quality is not just one dramatic moment, however, it's those consistent, everyday um, quality interactions that gradually shape trust and relationships and public understanding. It means that the work you and I do every single day truly matters, even when it feels small or routine. Every family you support, every child that you teach, every colleague that you influence, every person that you help understand the value of early childhood education has the potential to influence someone else. And that goes back to that ripple effect we were talking about earlier. Those individual experiences create that change that shapes perception. It's a it when enough people understand the value of early childhood education, the conversation changes, public support grows, investment grows, recognition grows. That is why quality is advocacy. And thank you so much for being here today. And I especially thank you for the work that you do and the impact that you continue to make in the lives of the children and families and communities that you serve. Thank you so much.